Hello everybody. In this Swift programming tutorial, we're going to go over different ways that you can get counts for elements in arrays, dictionaries, and strings. Okay, for our first example, let's go over how we can get character counts or the length of a string. Here we have a string with the alphabet with 26 characters. To get the length of the string, we can assign it to a variable, or we can just put it inside of a print, reference the string, .count. Let's run it. And we can see down here in the console, we get the correct character count, 26. Next, let's go over a couple different ways that you can count the spaces in a string. We're going to use this string here. And we have two examples, one using filter and one using a for loop. For the first example, we reference our string, then we use filter, and inside our closure, if any of the elements equals a space, we want to get a count, okay? For our second example, we go ahead and create a variable and set it to 0, then we loop over our string 2, then if any of the characters equals a space, we use our spaces count variable and our compound assignment operator to add 1 each time the space is encountered. Okay, so we can see in this string there are 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. We'll use both of these prints to display the number of spaces, so let's run it. And you can see down in the console we get 4 and 4. Next up, let's go over how you can get the count for elements in arrays and dictionaries. So here we have two arrays. The first one is an integer array and the second contains strings. And here we have a dictionary with planets and their corresponding moons. So you'll notice to get the count for the array and dictionary elements, all you have to do is reference the array or the dictionary and use count. So for this array, we have 10 elements. For this array, we have 5. And in this dictionary, we have 8 key value pairs. So we should get 10, 5, 8. Let's go ahead and run it. We get 10, 5, 8. We're good to go. Next up, we have 3 different ways to get tally counts, or running totals. For our first example, we're going to use this array here. And what we want to do is to get the count that corresponds to each of these elements and put it in dictionary form. So the first thing we did is we created an empty dictionary here, and this will hold the key, or the letter, and this will hold the count for those letters in this array. Then we loop over or through our array, and if that key is not in the dictionary yet, or is nil, we want to go ahead and assign 1. Otherwise, we want to add 1. Okay? So we have 2 more examples, but let's go ahead and run that first example to see what we get. So you can see here in the array we have 1A, 2 B's, 3 C's, 4 D's, and 5 E's. Now this is out of order because it's a dictionary, but you can see we get the correct results. For A, there's 1. For B, there's 2. C, there's 3. D, there's 4. And E, there's 5. Next up, in this example, we're going to go over how you can get a tally count for the characters in a string. We'll use this string here. The first thing we did is we've gone ahead and turned this string into an array. Then, similar to how we did in our previous example, we created an empty dictionary, and this will eventually hold the key and value counts. Then we loop over our array. We use our dictionary 3. Here, in the square brackets, we put I, which will be each element of the array, and we want to put in a default of 0. Okay, so the value count will start out as 0, which is somewhat similar to what we did here. And then here, just like above, we use our compound assignment operator to add 1 each time the key is encountered. And let's run it. So real quick, let's just go through this. For the exclamation point, we have 2. For the C, we have 4. You can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 2 question marks. There are 6 A's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 B's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 2 spaces, here and here. And there are 2 ampersands, here and here. Okay? And we have one more example here, which is very similar to this example, and we actually should get the same thing. Let's leave that uncommented so we can compare. Now what we've done here is we've gone ahead and created a variable. We reference string 3. We use reduce, and this is going to reduce the letters and the counts into a dictionary, just like we see here. Okay, so we have reduce into dictionary. Then we use our closure, which is going to use counts and letter in. And you can see this syntax here is very similar to this syntax. And basically what this is going to do is it's going to add 1 to the value for each key each time that key is encountered, thus giving us a tally count. And as we mentioned, we should get the same results from this and this. Let's go ahead and run it. And you can see down here in the console, we get the same results. Next up, what if you wanted to get a count of the unique elements in this array? All we have to do is wrap that array in a set. And then use count. So when we run this, we should get 5. Okay, that looks good. We have one last example. What we wanted to do here is to create an extension that allows us to extend the string type and get the count for a specific word in a string. So to do that, we use extension string. Then we created a function that will allow us to put in the word that we want to get the count for. This will return an int, which will be the count. Here we've gone ahead and created an empty array. Here we have a variable that will hold the space and symbols that we'll go over here in just a second. Then we use a for loop to loop over the elements of the string instance. And we want to make sure that's lowercase. Then to separate that string into just words and words only, we're going to use components separated by character set, and then we put in our special symbols. Okay, so that will help us split this string into words based on the spaces and the punctuation. Now in this case, we have all of these symbols. We don't really need all of these right now, so you can change this to whatever you need it to be. Notice in this string we have spaces, a period, and a question mark. So let's just put that in. So there we have our space, period, question mark. Then we use a filter with a closure to make sure that we don't get any empty strings. Then we append all those words to our array that we created here. And finally, we return the array and filter it based on the argument we pass into our function and get the count. Let's go ahead and try it out. Let's use this string here. Now, let's use a dot to access our function. There's our function, and let's get a count for the word hello. So we can see in this string, we see hello 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Let's run it. Okay, so you can see we get 3, but there are 4 hellos. Now one thing we left out, which we can fix real quick, notice here there's a comma, so we need to add that to our symbols. Okay, now let's run it. And you can see now we get the correct count. That's all we have for this tutorial. Join us again next time.